What's up, everybody? This is Slab City Television. The world is a diverse place full of different people with different beliefs, different ideas, and different blah blah blah. I believe that a conversation that adds a different type of salsa to the mix makes for a better tasting taco. So in this show, we have Chicano Steve from LA, and he's gonna tell us a little bit about his experience growing up in Los Angeles, um, being involved in the gang scene for a large part of his life. Steve, what's up, man? How are you?
Yeah, brother. It's a special edition. It's a special edition, man. um, yeah, what's up, brother, man? How you doing, man? Yeah, we're right here, man. By the way, first of all, I'd like to appreciate you, man, for the avatar and everything. Sorry, guys, that I wasn't able to get my this thing was tripping, and I was trying to get me to put myself an avatar so you guys could kind of see, well, you guys get an idea how I look when you guys kind of saw me
Well,
pointing those
I'm gonna
gaps
tell you,
with the
Steve.
with the
Hey,
notifications.
Steve. I'm gonna tell you, Steve, how you look right now. You look like one of those characters that comes out in those Cholo movies. I mean, it looks like
Yeah, I
you.
guess
Tienes la finta de Cholo, compa.
that's right, mi compa.
¿Sí o no?
Yeah, compita.
¿Sí o no? ¿Sí o no tiene
I
la finta de Cholo?
hey, well, I'm
Te
a
mira y dice, a
well,
la bestia, ese vato parece Cholo, a la bestia.
yeah, no, pues yeah, back then, I mean, um, today it's been more toned down. I'm more regular. You just, I see the way you guys see me in that picture. That's the way, I would dress around. I'm more now. Now it's a late. I started, wearing more suits and more, different shirts like that. With the wearing the tie or you know, wearing a suit and one of them shirts. The flannel pants and stuff like that with some nice shoes.
So tell
But
us, hey, Steve, so tell us about how were you initiated into the gang life, man?
yeah, man, just yeah. I mean, just pretty much we pretty much grew up all with this whole thing since we were youngsters, man. My brothers, my sisters, mis tios, mis tias, they were all gang banging, and back in the days here in South Central, you know, in a nutshell, I was 5 years old, got jumped in at the age of 5, believe it or not. When you're that age, you tend to grow up pretty fast. You're forced to, and you're forced to fend for yourself. Or you see back then when we're talking about maybe about the mid to late nine. I'm sorry, the mid to late '80s. You know, and so back then the crack epidemic was running around rampant, man, and so what people started to do back in the days, like in the even back in the days of the suit suiters, we're talking about the 50s, 60s, and then as the 70s came around, the late 70s, a lot of people started having trouble with you know, we call ourselves Chicanos, or they put that acronym on us politically. Chicanos is a first generation Mexican American, with your parents being from Mexico. My familia is from we're from Michoacan, or us, us here, like in Paisa talk, we say, hey, we're from, where, ¿de dónde eres, compa? No, somos de Michigan, somos de Michigan. But yeah, no, Michoacan, that's where, my family's from, my mother, my father. And so these guys would create little gangs, barrios and stuff like that, because, back then it was different times, different times. Uh, we didn't have this crap we got today, that's for sure, Anybody that had a VHS back in those days was, you were balling, dude, let alone a Nintendo or things like that, of that nature. Entertainment, we didn't have none of that stuff. Everybody was outside playing around. We're, playing out there in the streets. So, a lot of the times, the crack epidemic was around. So there was a lot of people that were getting jacked, especially, um, like my mother, she was a hardworking woman when she came, from Mexico. She had a fend for it was she came from Mexico, and she had 7 children already. Her husband got murdered over there in Mexico. Got he was doing some funny stuff over there too, and she had a bail, and she came over to the United States, with 6 kids. It was 7 because of the smaller one. She ended up staying over there with one of our tias, and because she was only like about 6 months old, so she couldn't bring her. My mother had she passed just like everyone else during around that time, which was on the mid 70s, like around 1976, I believe. And so everybody started forming gangs around that time, little barrios, Mexicans and Mexican Americans started doing that, mainly Mexicans, just as for protection, because every time, man, they'll get jacked. They were getting jacked almost every day by these people that were out there hooked on crack. There was a lot of crack houses. There was less authority out there. You'll find people dead in the alleys all the time. My house where we used to live in 42nd Street and Central, we had a lot of issues where, you've always had, you had abandoned cars. You had people they'll find people dead all the time, because they were either
in Los Angeles.
This is South Central. Yeah. Now they call it South LA, South Los Angeles. Maxine Waters was the person who did this, the Democratic Party, decided that South Central was too gangsta, so they they came up with so yeah, they took
Democrats, okay.
these. Well, I you must say that the people that's been running the show here in California, it's been them. It's been them for the last 40, 60 some odd years. It's been always them. This has always been a blue state, Some people even go as far as calling it the left coast, because Washington State and Oregon State, they're pretty much in the same boat, and you have the capital of the LGBTQ movement and stuff like that. Their capital, it's in San Francisco, so it's always been a liberal state, and I don't even really want to get into that because I'll get blue in the face, man. It starts coming into the politics.
Let's go back to what you were talking about, how there was different barrios. Chicanos began to create different gangs for protection.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's exactly that's what they that's how initially it really started. Now you have the people like in East LA, where later on, not until I was like about 11 years old, we moved into East LA. Now those guys, they had a different problem. They were simply barrios. They were just a bunch of rebel kids, man, because there were more zoot suitors over there, and they were having problems with. There was in the area of Boyle Heights and stuff like that. They had people that were from Jewish descents, Croatians, Caucasians, and stuff like that, and there was always like a lot of Marines out there at the time. If you check out anybody that's ever seen the movie American Me, kind of in the beginning and stuff like that, where some of these Marines will come out and come out here and party on the boulevard and stuff like that. These guys will get beat up, man, and their women will get raped too, and stuff like that. And then a lot of these times these guys just simply wanted to live. They wanted to just be out here and blend in, and us Mexicans, we really came over here to work, and my mother was not the exception. My father was not the exception. My father was rest in peace. He died he just passed away on 4th of July of all days this year, and he was a mechanic for over 50 years, and so but he had problems too. He was not the most perfect individual, so to speak, but he was a decent man. And this gang life out here, dude. I mean, it's nothing to be glorified or nothing. It's not nothing to I'm putting it out there as a testimony, not to glorify this whole thing. And or to
Right, of
to
course
to
not.
put it as something that's that not like all these youngsters today that they got this mentality that you know it's like today they say cualquier pendejo se puede hacer un tatuaje today. It's anybody can just get a tattoo anywhere.
A
Back
huevo.
then and
Hasta yo me
back
puedo
then
hacer un tatuaje.
yeah, back then it was not like that. Back then, if you really had a tattoo, it's because you earned some stripes. Yeah, they see
Right,
you out
okay.
there running around. So back then, I mean, today it's all about trying to get street cred. That's what it's all about today. And
Yeah.
shout out to them fools that want to do what they want to do. That's your life. That's what you want to do. That's your prerogative. That's up to you. But where I come from, back then, if you had some tattoos or you wanted to be, they call them wannabes. The fools that
Right.
want to put a tattoo or you dress up a certain way and stuff like that. So, oh yeah, cabron, you want to be like that? Then what's up? A lot of these fools will get jumped. A lot of these fools they'll punk you because it was just like a look. It's kind of like a Camaro. You got a 6-cylinder on a Camaro on a Mustang. It's an imposter. You want
Mm-hmm.
something that when they first came out is a V8. You want a muscle car. You're pretending to be a muscle car when you're not a muscle car. You know, you just got the looks, but you really have no street. You're not certified. So what the popular term. You're not street certified, or you don't have any street cred. You just probably been in jail for something dumb, for maybe slapping your girlfriend or something. And
Right.
these guys, they think they're big and bad, and it's a shame the way the stuff's going around today. But today it's a whole lot different, man. But yeah, I grew up doing all that stuff. I was 5 years old. I got jumped in by bigger kids. One of them happens to be one of my brothers. My brother, one of my older brothers at the moment, both of them were in jail.
Mm.
My brother, you know, he them fools went to go shoot up some fools, and my brother ended up being the driver, and they ended up killing like a couple guys from 38th Street because my brother was from 40th Street, and so he was one of the co-founders of that gang, and so when he ended up crashing because it was being pursued by the police, he crashed. He's hurt himself. They caught him. They left the straps in there, the guns, and they got him and put him in there for manslaughter. They tried to charge him for the deaths of the individuals, even though he didn't pull the trigger, but he was still there involved. He knew who did
Mm.
it and everything. He never spoke, and ended up getting out after uh, after close to 10 years. I believe he had a sentence of like about 20 some odd years, and
Hey Steve. Hey Steve. So you were telling me that you since the age of 5 years old you've been part of gangs, and we're not trying to glorify it, right? It's just your story, right? This is just your story. That since the age of 5 years old you've been involved in gangs.
yeah, just stuff that stuff that you just I guess you just can't help it when you're just in a bad situation. My mother was always working. She's had to take care of all of us. You know, my dad, my pops was trying to do his part, but he originally only had it was just me and my brother. Because when my mother got together with my father, they got together over here, and just like we spoke about it, my mother and my father got together right here in the United States, but they knew each other before. They were, you know, they knew each other from Mexico because they're kind of from the same area and they're from the same state of Michoacan. Um, what he felt like was that he wanted to protect my mother because the kids, her husband happened to be his own cousin, a cousin that were both of them were doing. They were like best friends. They were doing everything together. My dad he had gone the days before the cousin got murdered. They had beat the hell out of my dad. They dragged him with a horse and they left him in a barbed wire for 3 days to die on some cornfield over there in Mexico. So somebody found him, and that was a big testimony of his. And Even his iris in his eye was destroyed on that whole process. So he had a lot of trauma out of that. So about a couple of days later, then so they killed the cousin, which was my mother's husband, true husband. They had 7 children, which was 5 sisters and 2 brothers. So
do you want to share what? So do you want to share what they were involved in and why he got killed, or you just want to stay away from that?
They were drug movers. They were drugs movers. They were moving around some stuff over there. They were exclusively. I think it was only weed, as far as I'm concerned. Because weed, marijuana was a big thing, was a huge market for the United States since everything was illegal at the time. And all around the world. The places there, like Hawaii and stuff like that, and places like, they were shipping all over the place, and they were involved moving stuff around. And so in order to take their money away, because my dad was balling over there, and so was the other guy. That's the only reason they took him out, because they wanted no competition, and they were supposed to be friends of theirs. They got him up. They told him, come on. They were out there in the bar. Let's go down here and kick it. That's my mother's husband.
Okay.
They put him down in a little small ravine. They tied him up around. No, they wrapped him around with a rope, man. They started chopping him up with some machetes.
Oh my God, dude, just be quiet already, Holmes.
So
Dude, that's crazy, man.
Yeah, they chopped him up with machetes, straight up medieval.
Damn.
Just like he was unrecognizable.
Dude, and this was back in what year was it again?
When he got killed, that was in the early 70s.
Oh,
early
man.
It was about early to mid 70s, But
And
my mother did not have.
So this has been going a lot. So this has been happening, since the 70s. I mean, the only reason why we know about it now is because people have phones and social media, and and videos have surfaced of Los Zetas. You know how they freaking torture people and other. You know what I mean?
That stuff's been going for decades, man. Stuff that people are, we've been victims of all that stuff, eh? And our family has been. All my sisters grew up without a father,
Damn.
Because
of that,
my brothers grew up. Yes, it reverberated to my brothers, where my other brother was my brother Spanky. My brother Spanky still lives. He's somewhere over there in Tijuana right now, by the way. Shout out to him. My brother Spanky, he was out there running around, going in and out of jail because he was stealing from everyone. The fool would be jacking fools. That fool was like a straight mugger, and yeah, he's been involved with some other stuff too, man. That I really don't want to touch into that because it has to do with the Mexican mafia and stuff like that. And I told you about it, but but what I can tell you is, well, we'll probably talk about that later about my other brother. But yeah, it passed on to that. They had no father either, and the thing with me is that me and my brother, my brother was born in 1980, and I was born in 1981. So my mother didn't get together with my father till like the late 70s. My father felt the obligation because, us Mexicans were really traditional, right? He felt the obligation because that was his boy. He needed to take care of her because he felt like he saw her struggling to go to the market because my mother don't drive. She didn't know how to read or write when she got here. And he saw her struggling. He taught her how to read. He taught her how to write. He would take her to the market. He'll take her to the laundromat, and stuff like that. And he was a mechanic, so he was really talented. And plus, at that time, he was really athletic individual too, where he was, he was doing everything for around the house, And the problem with him was that he used to like to drink a lot, he used to party, stuff like that. And I guess, he got himself with other stuff too that, it was crazy, man. We had a crazy life over there when we were youngsters, but it was me and my brother, my other brother too, rest in peace.
So when you were 10 years old, I mean, so you were involved since you were 5 years old. So by the time you were 10, like, tell us about that. Like, how was your life by the age of 10?
By the time I was 10 years old, you know, another X thing too, X factor too, man. Ever since even when I was even here, um, the gang life around that time, most of the 40 streets guys ended up being in jail. So we did not have that protection because basically that's what we needed it for. You needed to get jumped in because and then not only was my brothers, both of them, and my tios and my tias, my tio Dopey, my other uncle, they called him caveman. The other one they called him Sasquatch. My brother Spanky, my brother Paito, which was a co-founder, the one that ended up going to jail. It was Paito, Paito from 40th Street, or Payo. That means a little charro. It's like a little charro, and that's what that means. And so he was out there, man, and what you call it. We didn't have that protection when I was around that age already. Um, so it was really hard. I used to go out there I used to hang around a group of people, man, and we used to go out there and I used to go pump gas to try to get some money, pump some gas, and we'll get run off by the crackheads, man. The fools are chasers. We'll go over there and throw rocks at them fools, and yeah. So by the time I was 11 years old, we moved to East LA, and that's when another freaking can of worms just totally opened, dude. And when we got there to East LA when I was 11 years old, that's when a lot of the craziness started to really happen, because at this time already, I was already 6 years in. I was sort of a little, we had a little seasoning already, I
Yeah.
went into the schools already. I was already sort of seasoned. I had already gotten involved in street fights and stuff like that. You try to have kids trying to bully me and stuff like that. They saw that I was punching them back and I was fighting back, and I ended up, started forming my own little thing, because I got involved with some other fools over there where there was a lot of gangs over there, I'm not gonna mention right here who they were, just because of reputation. We talked about it. It's it can
Right.
be these fools.
Right.
These fools
Protect
can,
it.
you know,
Right.
we don't want none of these fools to come out and try to looking for me, But
Right.
it's just there was so many gangs in that one place, and the place was called Aliso Village in East LA. Aliso
Mhm.
Village. Aliso Village was a small place where it was projects from the government projects,
Yeah.
and they were cut in like three different sections, where it was Aliso Village, Aliso Pico, and you had what was the other name right now? I can't remember right now. It was Aliso Village, Aliso Pico, and Pico Aliso. There it is. And so you had a lot of gangs right there, man. You had Clarence Street Locals, you had the Rascals, you had a gang named East LA, you had Primera Flats, you had East Coast Crips gang in there, East Coast Crips gang. You had a gang named Al Capone. You had another gang that was called the TMZ, which is the Mexican Crew, or the Mexican Club,
Hey, but
whichever they choose to.
are all these gangs like full-fleshed gangs, or are they just like teenagers trying to make a gang, or were the actual gangs like
Yeah,
to be feared?
no, these guys were all legit. They were all por ejemplo, Primera Flats. They had you had Cuatro Flats, by the way, too. Cuatro Flats. All these guys were with the Mexican mafias. They had connections with them. They had a lot of members from the Mexican mafia in that gang from Primera Flats, one of the oldest gangs in all of LA. You know that alongside with White Fence. White Fence is another gang. That's still out there. Just like right here in South Central, we got Florencia 13, 38th Street. Another guys too. All these guys they all got connections with the M. They're all sureños. We're all sureños right here. All these areas nothing but sureños. There's no norteños here, or from Nuestra Familia, which is somewhere in Central California, and the other ones are called norteños. Norteños are, we're talking about, like, San Francisco area and stuff like that, and Sacramento area and stuff like that. But over here, everybody from LA, everybody knows, and gang over there in the jails and the prisons, they kind of don't get along. The norteños and the sureños don't get along, and so a lot of these gangsters, they were out here in the streets, but a lot of these guys got connections with the M directly, the direct connections. They got an influence to the
With
streets.
the Maras. That's with the Maras.
No, the Maras are those are Salvadorians. They
So what's the
Maras.
M? Oh, the M is a freaking. Okay, I see. I think I know. Yeah, I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
La M
The
is the
Ma.
Mexican mafia.
Okay, okay. I thought
Yes,
that was the Mara Salvatruchas.
Mara Salvatruchas and people from 18th Street are excluded. Those guys are well. They some of them, I guess, they could still somewhat uh, kind of fit in some ways, but they're more they're more outsiders because they're from like El Salvador or from Central Americans. You know, most of the Mara Salvatruchas. You know, MS-13, better known as MS-13, the most dangerous gang in the world that they're known for. You know, for the brutality and all that craziness that they do over there in the country. And but they actually ended up from over here and they took it back to El Salvador. You know, a lot of fools got deported, so they made themselves so huge over there. Where you even got 18th Street. 18th Street was a gang over here somewhere in the Wilshire area.
Mm-hmm.
Que también most of them are Central Americans, and those guys they hate each other's guts. They're mortal enemies.
Wait a
They don't
minute.
like
So
each
then
other.
these guys from 18th Street got deported and freaking created an 18th Street over there, freaking in Honduras or Salvador.
Yeah, both. Yeah, over there in Central America. Yeah, Honduras,
Man,
Salvador.
that's crazy.
You know, the Guatemala too, in some areas, but it's predominantly with the Catrachos and the Salvadorians. You know, Catrachos is Hondureños. You know, from Honduras,
Right,
and
right.
all these guys, even guys from Fifth and Hill, even guys from Fifth and Hill. There was a gang from downtown. It was kind of like a knockoff of the MS and 18th Street thing. So those guys are a little bit different than what I'm telling you. You know, like the you know Florencia 13 and all these other guys. These are all Chicano gangs, by the way. You know, Mexican gangs. You know, because you also like I mentioned the East Coast Crips gang. Like right now I'm in Watts. Right now I live in Watts, and right here you have the Grape Street Crips. You know, right here you have the Bloods. You have well these fools right here in Nicholson Gardens. There's some projects right here, Nicholson Gardens, and
Yeah.
the Imperial Courts. Imperial Courts. You have the Bloods right there, the Bloods, and so you know Bloods and Crips never really get along, and but that's their thing, you know. That I you know I knew fools from East Coast Crips gang, and even right here too. I still know a couple fools, you know, and but that's totally different because I got out of this whole thing a long time ago, man. I you know when I started getting my friends getting shot and killed when I was kicking it with these guys in the projects, you know, we ended up seeing a lot of my friends. We used to get jumped, man, and we used to jump a lot of fools. We used to go over there and tag in their neighborhoods. Um, and it was you shoot them and they shoot us. You know, when you had this guy from Al Capone, when you had Al Capone that had control over the part of the projects, those guys those guys were straight up legit, man. Those guys were the type of people that have some kind of values. If these fools were gonna go over there and shoot the Primera flats because they were mortal enemies with Primera flats and Cuatro flats, these fools will go over there and they see kids outside, they see their families outside, or you see a lady hanging the their clothes to go dry. They'll tell the people, "Hey, métanse para dentro, go inside your house. We're gonna go blast these fools right now," and they
Yeah.
would do that. And it was something like that. And or they'll see one of their homies using some speed or using some chiva, which is heroin and or methamphetamines, speed, or they see you doing cocaine or something like that, or that you're not keeping up with your things. These guys they'll court check you, man. They'll be right there. You'll have 5, 6 fools, man, beating the crap out of you, man, and they'll check court you. You know, they'll be right there stomping on you to get rid of that bad habit, or they see you doing it again. You was in big trouble with your own homies, and so these guys had some kind of looking out for each other.
Wait, could
Now,
you
when
repeat
you
that
have
again? Could you repeat that? Hey, could you repeat that again,
which part?
Steve? that
Yeah.
this last part that you just that, like, why would they stop on you? Why would they stomp on you? You were saying?
Yeah, they'll jump you, man. They'll jump you straight up when you're out there, you know, using drugs. You're out there. They
Wait,
saw you doing
wait,
some
wait,
speed.
wait, 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 because that's kind of incredible, man. So
Yeah,
you're telling
they
me
they
that there was gangsters that would actually not endorse drugs, or those
that's
type of
right.
drugs at least. Man,
The
that's
only thing you can
incredible.
do is sell it. The only thing you can do is
Yeah.
grab it and sell it. Like if you, they saw these because you got to remember when I was out there, um, we got out there in the late. I mean, I'm sorry, in the early '90s is when I showed up over there to East LA. You know, mind you, I still had some of my sisters that were living with us and stuff like that. My mother and stuff like that. My pops and in the projects just because you know we were on the low end. It was very difficult. You know, because my mother had so many my sisters and everything they branched out because they ended up marrying and stuff like that. They ended up going with their husbands, but but it was yeah, it was actually a blessing in some ways, but in the same time we had to go through a lot just to be living in those projects. It was just kind of, you always had to be on your toes over there, man. But those guys over there, they knew this. So what these guys would do, man, these guys would look out for their own homies, and these guys would jump you. Literally, just they see you doing something, they'll see you know they'll consider you a chavala, you know, you're ranking out. Say, fool, you're ranking out, Holmes. You know, you're ranking out. You know, I heard that you ranked
Okay.
out. You know, well, basically, when they say you ranked out, I mean that's another term when people are when somebody tell you, hey, where you from, SA, and you say, yeah, I don't gang bang. You know, knowing that you're from a gang and that's considered ranking out. You ranked out. So now you're just a leva. You're just you're chavala. You know, you're ranking out. You ranked out. So they'll jump you for that too, till you straighten up. You know, or they'll just outright, if they see that you're just, you know, you're not worth it, they'll just kick you out of the gang and they'll jump you out, and you go, you're a lone wolf now, and they don't want to see you around, and they don't want to see you around. They see you around, they're gonna jump you. Like if you show your face anywhere. But the other guys, see, these were modest guys, man. These were like, you know, I'm talking about these fools from Al Capone. You know, yeah, Al Capone's a guy. The way they call Al Capone, these guys, the way that I heard it, and the way that I was told, that these guys wanted to kind of find out what was they were, you know, a bunch of kids, you know, and they were like, well, you know, we want to find out what's the best name we're gonna form a gang, but we need a badass name. We need a name that's gonna strike fear in the hearts of these people, you know, the people that we don't like, and the people that are beating us up. So I said, who was the biggest mobster at the time, you know, up to that point? You know, we're talking about when they made it was somewhere around the 70s or something, or 80s. So it was Al Capone, of all people, you know. Al Capone was still big. And so they said, we're going to call ourselves Al Capone, even though they kind of didn't, you know, it just sounded cool. Al Capone. And it sounded cool to them. So they started calling themselves Al Capone. And their mortal enemies were the freaking Primera Flats, of all people. Primera Flats is, like I said, it's one of the biggest, oldest gangs there is here in the streets of LA. And these guys, man, I'm telling you, those guys, as soon as Al Capone moved out, Primera Flats were just totally freaking different, dude. These guys didn't give a flip about nothing. All these guys were sherm heads. There were crystal meth guys. There were crackheads. There were drunks. Them fools will fight against amongst each other. These fools will shoot at each other, man. They killed each other too, just shooting each other, man. And a lot of these fools will end up blowing their own brains out too. It was known for that too. There was suicide. There was a lot of suicide rate between these guys. They did not care about not even their own homies. These guys were just they were a bunch of tweakers, man. They were just messing each other up.
It says the Primera Flats originated in the Aliso Village government housing projects, along with the Cuatro Flats. I
Yeah,
don't know if you know anything about that.
that's where I was. That's where I live.
That's where you live. What?
Yeah, right there.
I just pulled this up. I just pulled this up
That
right
was
now.
right there. Yeah, that's
Yeah, I
right there in
just
the
pulled this up.
projects. Yeah, that was that. That the whole projects were so bad. They were so bad that they knocked them out in the early 2000s. It was that bad that
Yeah.
they got rid of the entire place. Right now, you go over there, it's nice little townhouses right there, man. You know, a really beautiful place, man. But you know something that was really wicked about that place, if a lot of people don't know about, that it used to be a former cemetery.
Oh,
You know,
snaps. Okay.
there was there was a lot of bad vibes. There was a lot of bad spirits around that area as it was. You know, it was something that was not just for anybody, man. It was something else. It was something else to live right there. Um, to see that you know, people would actually see ghosts too, man. Believe it or not, people the fools are like, you'll see fools sometimes. They would, especially these tweakers, man, that were going around like yelling in the middle of the night. Felt like they were getting chased. And I'm gonna tell you right now that a lot of it was really true too. I saw a lot
Yeah.
of. I,
Could you see my
I
screen on your phone?
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sharing some pictures of Primera Flats.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Don't tell me you know that guy.
You see that? Dude, these fools look familiar to me, man.
I just put
Especially
it's on the internet,
especially the
man.
Moreno guy, man.
Oh, el negrito.
You know, man. You know, I think I went to school with this fool, man. That
Get out of here.
I'm not gonna say his name, but I got
Mhm.
pictures with this fool too, man. He used to be my neighbor. That fool
Wow.
was my neighbor. Um, you know what it was, that there was not a lot of Morenos over there. There was some, but the ones that really got into Primera Flats later on, they got into Primera Flats. Um, because you have to understand that these guys, Primera Flats didn't care, man. Like us, like, you know, the people from Al Capone and the people from East LA, they were only exclusive to Latinos, you know, just Mexican and Mexican Chicanos. But Primera Flats didn't care whether you're Chinese, you're black, white, polka dot, yellow, green dotted. It don't matter. If you were down, you were down. There was this one guy in particular, man. His name was Eric. He was the craziest mother lover there was right there. Little kid, man. You know who he looked like exactly like who? He looked
Who?
like this fool so much. This fool looked like Easy E. The Jerry curl and everything, dude. The Jerry
Yeah.
curl, the whole thing, just the whole shebang. He was light skinned too, like a little light skinned moreno. So when this fool put a flannel shirt on with some lokes on and his hat with the Jerry curl, that was Easy E. That was him. They ended up calling this fool Scooby, I think, if I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken. This fool was just a crazy. He came from a bad family, you know. If fool grew up without a father, you know, and that youngster, man, you know, even just kicking it with him was something else. It was just like we used to just go out there looking for trouble, dude. You know, I went to school with him, and we were just going out there looking for trouble. This fool right here, he had a big family. This fool had a family. He had brothers and he had sisters, and he was one of them. Later on, got jumped into them fools because when Primera Flats came around, not only that you were gonna be from Primera Flats, but you were gonna get jumped into Primera Flats, and you were gonna claim Primera Flats against your will. You know what happened when those guys, I'm probably gonna give myself away, but when these guys ended up taking over the place, I didn't come out of the house for about 2 years. I
Mm.
stood stuck in my freaking house right there, dude. Got my hair long and everything. Never went to even to the barber like that because these guys were trying to find anybody of age to knock you out, and they'll try to,
Mm.
they'll jump you in, and then now you're from Primera Flats, and if you don't, you're ranking out in their eyes, and they're gonna continue getting you to. Good thing I had a sister, man. My sister was out there, talking to these fools and convincing these fools, and then based on the other stuff too that I told you, man.
Yeah.
Especially the one time where we, even our house got shot up, man. These fools were looking for me. They shot my house. I was in the second floor, and I was in the entrance of the door. And this guy, I guess, got a little too greedy. He shot it. He shot at me. I was in the second floor, my back against the rails because it was a second floor. And this guy shot while he was down there, and he shot with a shotgun. And it looked like he had a slug or a buckshot. But if you aim just a little lower, this fool he was trying to get a headshot off of me, man. Because when I heard the gunshot, my cap, I had a cap on, flew right out of my head. And right above me, that like about a few inches above me, that's where the first shot hit. Boom, boom. That's all I can remember hearing. Because my brother-in-law was outside bumping some music. I was outside with him, and there was some fools. There was some fools that you know that were around from the neighborhood, trying to convince my brother-in-law to let him borrow his car so them fools can go out there and party. Because my brother-in-law had a Monte Carlo at the time, and so this fool right here, I'm not gonna name these two fools' names, but these two fools, man, they were trying to convince my brother-in-law to let him borrow, so he can go out there to a party. But then this ended up happening. They shot up my whole house, man. The whole big old holes in the wall and everything. It was a miracle and this is where God comes in. Because I'm a firm believer in the Lord. Because I'm a testimony and I've seen His hand, the way He's looked out for us and stuff like that, brother. No one inside the house got hurt, even though the whole windows and everything got destroyed. Me and my brother-in-law and the other guy that was there, we somehow ended up crawling with our knees inside the freaking house. My sister was inside with her daughter, and my brother was inside over there too, and my mother was on the other side in the living room. But all of them were in the same room when they shot the whole house down, and no one got shot. It was just the police came over to assess the situation and the damage. That they said, man, it was a miracle that no one even got shot or we were unscathed. It was it was something very dramatic. At the time I was maybe about 14 years old, 15 years old.
So after that, like how after that happened, how did your mind how did you begin to view, like how did that impact your life?
Well, the biggest impact that I had was when they shot and killed my brother. When they got my brother Paito. My brother Paito was not even from the gangs from these guys, This guy was just one day he was coming from a party from his homeboy's from his homeboy's house. And this fool was coming from his house and this guy told him, "Hey, Holmes, you want me to take you to the house?" And my brother said, "Nah." I said, "I'm cool, man. I'm gonna walk to this house." I said, "Yeah, it's dangerous out here," because it was already like midnight. They said, "Nah, these fools know me already, man. A lot of these fools, and this fool's on the other side. He was on the other side of because we were on Aliso village, so he was coming from Aliso Pico, and Aliso Pico. He was coming from across the street because that's First Street. First Street separated Aliso village from Aliso Pico, and then on Cuatro Flats on the other side, that's when you have Pico Aliso. That's where you had the Cuatro Flats. They had that. They had it the best because they had that whole area was sealed just for them. They had they didn't have like really bad enemies. Only the TMZs, which was right there, like from across the street from right there to the other side, but it was like a stretch, But right here from First Street to there, yeah. So my brother was walking his way over there, and he only made it a few buildings away, where some fool came out and we heard that shot him with a 357 in the back. And my brother was the type of guy where he had just gotten out of jail. This fool was in prison, stuff like that. So he had the whole look. He had one of those blue flannel shirts when he come out of prison, some blue khakis. His hair slicked back. His body was full of tattoos, man, 100%. And shiny shoes, man, shiny shoes from the pen, straight fresh off the pin. That's how he dressed.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they shot him, man, they shot him in the back. My brother started to run, and as soon as he cut the corner, there was a guy waiting for him right there with a high-power rifle, and shot him right in the face and blew his brains out.
Damn.
And that right there, at that time, I was about to be, I was 14 years old. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I was 14, and that right there really, really, really impacted my life. At that time, man, when I was 11, 12, 13, 14 years old, man, I got my first tattoo when I was like about 12 or something like that. I was 11 or 12 years old, and I first got my tattoos,
Okay.
for one of the homies from 40th Street, Scooby. But I was wearing the whole thing. I was, Nike Cortez, some size 40s. My waist was only like about 26 or 28 inches. I was wearing some size 40s, some 42s, Dickies, um, big old white shirts or big old flannel shirts, mainly flannel shirts because that's what I like more. My hair slicked back with a hairnet, straight up just the way the look, man. And
Yeah,
I grew up like that with all these foods. So for me, that was just kind of normal. And my mom was
right.
trying to buy me something normal, or my sisters were trying to buy me something normal. I tell them, no,
Yeah.
man, I don't, I don't want this stuff, man. This is for squares. This was for for nerds or for geeks. That's what we used to call them. And now they're everywhere. But anyways, that's something else. Yeah, man. So that was the biggest impact, And then as soon as I got myself locked into the house where these crazy fools from Primera Flats took over the area, that just for me, I started to look elsewhere, man. I started to change. I used to fight a lot in the freaky streets, man. They kicked me out of school too, by the way. So I was always in street fights. I fought too much in school, so I ended up where I graduated from. I graduated from an alternative school. This alternative school was called Dolores Mission Alternative. It doesn't exist anymore. The Dolores Mission place, there's a school. It still exists. Is run by a father. There was he was a father from he was un cura.
Yeah.
Father. If you look him up, you'll see him. It's Father Gregory Boyle. Gregory Boyle. Father. Everybody call him Father G. Father G. Father
Okay.
Greg. G Dog. They call him G Dog. He was the founder of this called Homeboy Industries. Homeboy Industries. If anybody knows about the area in East LA, that's a place where they make clothes and stuff like that, and they do some customized work for a clothing line, and they work making clothes for like different other places. Of all places, man, when I started going to LA Trade Tech College, they told me go to Homeboy's Industries. They make because you need a uniform for because I was studying for mechanic, right? I've always been a mechanic, but I went over there to go get my degree in automotive. So they told me to go over there, and it just brought a lot of memories, And this was somewhere around 2016 or something like that. And so yeah, these guys. I don't know if he's still alive today to this day, but the man had done so much. There's even documentaries around there floating around YouTube where he was going out there, where you'll see some of these guys that were, I believe one of these, they had just shot and killed some fools from Clarence Street locals, and they were doing a funeral on the guy in his church, and which by the way, a lot of my homies went right there. When my brother got shot and killed too, he went to our house to
Yeah.
for his condolences. Because
Yeah.
that was his area, and so I knew him personally. Not to mention the school where I went to in Dolores Mission Alternative. Shout out to everyone over there, man. That they helped me a whole lot, man. It was just nothing but killers right there in that school, man. All
Mm-hmm.
the schools I went to a continuation school too, somewhere in it was called Saya Lincoln Heights. It was like an old church over there in Lincoln Heights. So when they pulled me out of school for fighting, because I went to Hollenbeck Middle School, and then you have Roosevelt High School right next to it. I never went to high school, like an actual high school. I never went to an actual high school because imagine I didn't make it out of. I barely made it out of elementary, man, for fighting, and I never made it
Hey,
out of. the middle school
It seems like
system.
I'm picturing as you're talking to me. It's like you're telling me a like a movie scene from one of those gangster movies, that one of those uh cholo movies that are based off of like L.A., Boyle Heights,
Yeah,
Watts.
yeah. This whole, this is no cap, man. I'm not those type of dudes, man. I'm gonna be out here
Yeah.
capping and making stuff up, man. This is not what we're about. This is a special edition, by the way, guys. I know it has nothing to do with Slab City, nothing like that, but it's for Slab City fans and Slab City individuals that love this channel. We're just bringing in something new, something unique, where he's a true journalist, man. Carlos right here, he's a true journalist. Where this is something he loves to do. This is what he likes to do. This is in him, you know. And can't nobody tell him what to do, man. This guy, he loves what he's doing. Let him do what he wants to do. He wants to talk to us. We're gonna talk to us. We're gonna talk to anybody over there. We're gonna talk to anybody over there too. But this is the way it is, you know. And he just needs just nothing but respect, because this is what it's all about. This whole thing I'm talking about. The way I made it this far was what a weak person, a weak individual, is a very dangerous individual. A dangerous man is a dangerous man, but a weak individual, a weak person can do so much more than just a dangerous man, you know? Because at least a dangerous man knows he has a capability to be dangerous. So he doesn't have to use it. He knows he has a capability. But wait till a weak man, Jordan Peterson put this best, You look him up, guys, and you guys will know what I'm talking about. What he refers to as a weak man. What they're capable of doing. They're just more capable of killing. They're more capable of doing crazy things. What do you think there's so mass shootings going around? Because these are weak-minded people. They are capable of just about anything. But do you think a dangerous man that has capability are going to go out there and shoot a bunch of kids in Uvalde, Texas? By the way, shout out to them people over there. My condolences. Anybody out there in Texas, man. But yeah, that's just the bottom line. Those guys are a lot more dangerous, especially when you give these guys pistols and they have access to that kind of stuff. They got mental illness. That kind of stuff is real. So bad spirits, and go inside of you, and you let them take over you. You know, that's why even in the Bible and stuff like that, even you go when the devil got you in the palm of your hands. By the way, I don't have any scriptures right now for this, but if this is what this is what I believe and I've seen. If the devil got you in the palm of your hand, he's going to leave you alone. He's going to leave you alone. He's not going to mess with you because you're doing his deeds. But if he doesn't got you in the palm of your hand, if you're not in the palm of his hand, he's going to be out there bugging you. He's going to be out there trying to destroy your life because you're doing well. You see, if you're in God's hands, he wants you to take your way out of God's hands and put you in his, so he can go ahead and destroy your life. And this is exactly what I've seen my whole life. I've seen a lot of my friends get shot right in front of me. A lot of my friends dying right in front of me. And who was the main culprit of this? The devil has to ask permission to God for him to do certain things. Now, if he sees that you're not doing the right thing, he's going to go after you. You see, and this is the way I've seen in my personal experiences. I'm talking about. That's what I've seen. That's what has happened. My brother too. My brother just died about 3-4 years ago. Not so long ago. They found this fool in front of the liquor store. He had a heart attack and a stroke at the same time because that fool was drinking a lot. He was a paranoid schizophrenic. So anybody says I don't know anything about mental health and mental issues and stuff like that, even I've gone through that stuff. But God has given me the fortitude to stay and be the person that I am today, because iron sharpens iron. Poison don't kill you, makes you stronger. All those little things that people say, a lot of it has a lot of truth with it. But yeah, how is the best steel in the world forged? You have to put it through the fire, right? So God puts us all of us into the fire. He puts us inside the fire to try to sharpen us up, to see how much forging we can get out of it. you know, how strong you can become, you know. That person makes you who you are the day to day. But if you don't never grow, you want to be with these guys. You know, the good thing that I had was that when I used to hang around with these guys in the barrio, I was hanging around with the OGs. Today they call them OGs, but we call them veteranos. A veterano's an OG. I used to hang around with the older guys because at first I, you know, when I was a little kid, I ran with the little soldiers. You know, I was right there messing around. But as soon as I earned my stripes and these guys knew who I was, and they knew that I put in work already, I will kick it with those guys to learn from them. Which is why I stood away from jail. That's why I never ended up in the prison system, because I've seen what it did to my brothers. All my brothers, all my tios went to jail. I went to jail too when I was, you know, a juvenile. By the way, I don't know if you want me to tell you that to tell that story again of me being in juvie in Eastlake over here for because I was in probation for like about 4 years. I had a probation officer when I was a youngster because I had gotten caught several times, you know, doing some crazy stuff in the projects and stuff like that, and they was trying to take me out, and so I had a probation officer, which is why, because, you know, all the fighting, all the street fighting, all the school fights and stuff like that, they put me in jail 1 week, man. And for me, I said, this is not for me, man. I'm never gonna come back to this filthy place ever again. Especially when I had this guy that was my cellie, you know. This guy, you know, the devil's everywhere, man. This guy was only about 16, 17 years old. I was about 12 or 13 years old. Well, I don't know any I've never met any fruity guy, any guy that's into that kind of stuff, but this guy literally wanted me, you know, he wanted to rape me, you know, grape me. Let's just say it like that.
Yeah.
He wanted to grape us, you know. And so me and this guy started rolling around the freaking ground, man. I started fighting this guy back, where I injured my knee pretty bad. But if one of the prison guards wasn't passing around right there, you know, he heard the scuffle. There was scuffling, so they heard us, and they ended up, you know, they ended up breaking us up, and they saw how badly injured, you know, I was bleeding all over the place from my knee. And they saw that, you know, what the damage was, and this guy, man, I you know, can never see that how evil the world really is. I got to see it firsthand that way, you know, especially when someone's trying to do something like that to you, man, and it's just coming out of left field. Because I thought he was cool, but then he started acting kind of strange with me, you know, after a couple of days. And that's when, yeah, we got into it, man. We started scuffling, we started fighting. You know, I wasn't gonna let this mofo touch me like that. And so yeah, that was a blessing, and I remember all the wisdom these guys gave me about staying away from jail, which is why I did.
Hey, Steve. So your house got shot up, right? So
Yeah,
then, tell us,
yeah, more
tell
than
us
once
more
by
about it.
more than
Yeah.
once, by the way, too, man. More than once, more than once. You know, and we were one time chilling out there too, and they would sometimes these fools would just pass on through, and they'll see you, and the fools will shoot at you. You're standing outside your house, and these fools, bah, 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 and you fools are freaking running inside your house or something, you know, or you try to stay away from the line of fire. But not only shooting at us like at the house, he shot us even standing outside with the, you know, when you're standing out with the rest of the other homies. Just like one other time, I'm gonna tell you, the homie, one of the homies, his name was they call him Cisco, right? Cisco. He was like, he sent me. He used to live in the third floor in the projects, way in the back. And he was like, "Hey, go tell my lady to give me my jacket. Go tell her." So we went down there, and his girlfriend was Muñeca, and we want to go there and tell her, "Hey, we were in the first floor." Me and the other fool that was with me, his name was Daniel. And they were like, "Hey, fool, hey, can we get him? You know, he wants his jacket." Nah, what jacket? I don't know what you're talking about. No, he's telling us to get your jacket, man. You know, he wants a jacket. And so we went back up there without his jacket, and this fool, you're like, "Damn, you damn hoe. What you mean she doesn't know, man?" I said, "Come on, man. I'm gonna go down there. So when this fool went down there, we were about to go again. They said, okay, we'll go back and get your jacket. I said, no, stay right here. I'm gonna go right now. I'm gonna cuss this hoe out right now. He went down there, and the moment he went down there, some fools just creeped up on him, man, and bam, 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 bam. All of us ran inside the freaking house, dude. We just like scattered. And I saw the fool running towards him, man, with the gap. Just pulled it right out, boom, boom. And there was another fool. Two of them fools started shooting that guy. That fool went up there, and this fool's a big muscular guy, by the way. This fool went upstairs, man, to the third floor like nothing. Took off because this fool, he had he just put a flannel shirt on, so he had no shirt. This fool just went out there and he was like, damn mofos got me, man. Fool took off the scissors. We had a big old bullet hole right here in the shoulder, close to his heart. I was like, just imagine, me and this guy was about to go back downstairs to go get this girl, to give us his jacket, but this fool, got hot-headed and decided to go by himself. So imagine if it would have been me and the other guy. One of us was going to get shot. He did, and that was only one guy. That's another example too.
Brandon Schott is calling you a J-Cat. What does that mean?
A who?
He's calling you a J-Cat.
A J-Cat.
Yeah.
I don't know what the heck that means. Just probably trolling. Wonder what he calls himself when he's wearing a wig or something.
Yeah.
So, no disrespect if you didn't mean no disrespect, man. But you're not gonna disrespect me like that, brother. Wherever the heck you are.
He's not. Yeah, he's trolling. He's trolling.
Yeah, so, I can see a couple of things right here. I wasn't paying attention to the things right here. I see somebody here says, "Voice of Almighty Jesus Christ." It says, I did time in TDC in the late '80s. Wasn't no joke. Body count going down in there. Yeah, the '80s, man. It just I was a youngster. I got exposed to a lot of things, man. Not just me, man. My whole family. My whole family. It's just an unfortunate way to grow up. When you have, especially in those times where there was like, talk about lawlessness, man. There was like less. There was not a lot of policing over there. Not until actually in the projects, not until you started getting the crash unit was formed. The crash unit became famous, Crash as in crash. Mm-hmm. But it's in like an acronym. I forgot I think it was called crime something. I forgot, man, right now. It was a gang unit, basically, a gang unit. So all these fools started rolling up on all these guys, man. They started taking. That's why when Al Capone was there, they were like the big guys. They were like the ones in charge of that whole area where I used to live. A lot of those guys were put in jail. And because not only that, later on they started to withdraw people from there. People were getting Section 8 and stuff like that. People started to move out, and these guys started to move out too in droves because they were going to knock the projects out. And that was a perfect opportunity for Primera Flats to come in and take over. So when they shot and killed my brother, I'm going to tell you this one about how the M got involved too, because back then there was a lot of drive-by shootings. Okay, and so these drive-by shootings were going around, and they were like common thing. A lot of people were getting shot and killed, innocent people. So the MS stepped in and said they stepped in. They said anybody that comes in and does another drive-by shooting, I don't care who you guys are, we're gonna get you the green light. What that means, green light, means that all the gangs around you, even if they were your good homies and you guys were in good terms, not anymore. They see you in the street, they're gonna get you. I don't care who it is. You guys are gonna get it, and no one's gonna kick it with you guys. You guys are gonna cut all ties. So when he shot and killed my brother, my brothers, the gang and stuff like that, they had influence. They had influence, and so what had happened was that that right there, the murder of my brother, because he was like a real OG veterano, even if he wasn't from that area, he still had prison influence, if you know what I mean. And so was my other brother, because my brother witnessed him, He had just gotten in good terms with my brother. And what happened was that They said, okay, no more killing. Nobody. No more shooting. No more nothing. Anybody that does anything, look what happened to this guy. If anybody does anything anymore, you're gonna get the green light. And so it was. That was the law of the land. So my brother's murder actually got the emet to tell all the gangs around there, because everybody was just shooting, killing each other left and right. Anything they moved was gonna get shot and killed. And my brother's death proved it. And that stopped a lot of killings. That right there in itself, and only God knows he works in mysterious ways. But it saved a lot of lives, because a lot of other youngsters and a lot of other fools, like one of my other homies, he had gotten murdered too as well, you know. But there was one guy after that when Primera Flats took over, and my brother's stuff had already passed a little bit. A couple years later, one fool in particular started going rampant, man. This fool probably, like, in a month, the same guy probably killed about 10 or 12 people, 10 or 12 bodies under his belt. And there was one guy in particular that was doing it. I know who he was, and I'm not going to name him.
Hey Steve,
Yeah.
I have some history for you of the Primera Flats. The First Street Primera Flats formed an alliance with the Fourth Street Flats. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
It says this alliance was broken when a member of the Fourth Street Flats shot and killed a member of the Primera Flats in 2005. Early rivals were other gangs that coincided in the Aliso Village projects, such as the Cuatro Flats. So are you familiar with it? Oh, right there it says the Mob Crew, the Al Capone, and the First Street East Coast Cribs.
Yeah, right, so there it is. There it is. See, no cap, man. Yeah, no.
Hey, so you're familiar when somebody shot and killed a member of the Primera Flats in 2005? I mean, you must be aware of that situation, right?
Yeah, no. At that time, there was just a lot of stuff running around, because you see, this is what happened. These guys, Cuatro Flats. By the way, the guys from Cuatro Flats is the ones that killed my brother. Okay. Cuatro Flats killed my brother. Okay. And like I'm gonna tell you again, these guys were a bunch of freaking shermheads. They were tecatos.
So when was your brother? So when was your brother killed?
My brother was killed in 1995.
Oh, snaps. Okay, yeah, because there's actually
10 years later.
Right, 10 years later, it says a member of the 4th Street Flats killed a member of the Primera. So your brother was from the Primera Flats?
No, my brother was from 40th Street.
Oh, from.
So they confused them.
From 40th Street.
Yeah, because they confused them. Yeah. So this is what happened. They said, okay, so who did it? So when they wanted to get to the bottom of it, they said, hey, so who was the guy that did this? Who was the guys that because where he got shot and killed, he got shot in TMZ's barrio, in the barrio where the Mexican crew is, the Mexican gang, the TMC with a C as in your name, Carlos.
Yeah.
He got shot and killed right there in their neighborhood. Now, on the other side, the mortal enemy of these guys, they were always going back and forth, killing each other. It was Cuatro Flats on the Cuatro side, because that's 4th Street. That's 4th Street. That's why they call themselves Cuatro Flats. Primera Flats was on the 1st Street side, 1st Street. So Primera Flats. But these guys were over there in that side. So what these guys were doing, they were just they were doing a lot of drug deals. They were doing a lot of things. You know, I'm telling you, these guys were literally killed each other, bro. These guys were shooting and killed one homie. But a lot of times it was for a girl. A lot of times these fools were shooting each other for a damn girl. You know, a lot of these guys will blow their brains out. A lot of fools, just because they were, you know, either too drugged out or were just not doing the right thing. A lot of you guys, there was a lot of suicides, man. A lot of suicide rates over there. And it was the Primera Flats and these guys. So I'm not surprised. And I think I did heard something about that later on. But I have to understand that at that time in 2005, the projects had already been pretty much liquidated. They had been knocked out already. I had already moved in deeper into East LA, where I was pretty much well, I used to box. I was doing a lot of boxing. I was doing a lot of that stuff. At the time, I was in 2005. I was let's see, I was in East LA, deeper in East LA over there by Cesar Chavez already. Um, it was a different time. I had already pretty much walked away from all that stuff. That was like my golden ticket, dude. When they knocked the projects out, I was just so you should man. It was just like a miracle because I thought I was always going to live in the projects, that we were always going to live in fear. I always had to watch my back, and it was just you always had to be on your toes, man. I even knew the art of being sneaky and going around. I would have never walked in the same place. I was always turning, watching my back. I was always. You just tend to live like that. So when I lived and we started living over here in the house, in an actual house, away from the projects in East LA, it was a different thing. It was hard to kind of. Now I felt free. I felt like I was actually free now, like from a nightmare, because now I could walk in the streets without the fear of getting recognized. You see what I'm saying? Because I was recognized.
Right.
Everybody knew who that guy was over there. They were looking for me. That's
Yeah.
why they knew who I was. And it was something, man. It was something different. Thank God we made it out of there. The Lord's good, and what can I say? The yeah, at that time things were just like you would hear things. You would hear things because yeah, but at that time I wasn't surprised because they actually I did hear about that these guys were like they were like infighting between each other. Because that was like the last straw. They were There was a civil war. That's what I'm trying to say. It was a civil war between themselves, and it was over control. You know, so that's why when
Mm.
these fools killed one of those guys, that was like the last straw. But it was not. It was nothing unheard of. These fools have already been doing it like on a low key. Those fools already doing it low key to each other. Within each other, because there were a bunch of shermheads, a bunch of fools out of their freaking head. They were drug users. They were all over the place.
Hey
That
Steve,
was
so when did you like quit the gang life? Like
when
when
I
did you say, you know what, this is over. This is too much already.
like I said, when it impacted me, it might sound like, oh, you were still young, you was only 14, 15, 16 years old. Um, but believe me, when you grew up with it and that's all you know, and you grew up really fast. I like I said, I've seen a lot of things, man. I got exposed to a lot of things too early. That right there, it feels like a different lifetime, dude. It just feels like, because I felt like right now, even to this day, it's like I've lived like three different lifestyles, man. Three different lives of three different kinds, or even four, because I'm in my early 40s. You know,
Right.
I'm beginning a new chapter in my life. You know, I'm a single father with two kids. And a daughter. You know, I gotta take care of my two boys right now and stuff like that. And we live right here with grandma and which is my mother, and we take care of each other. Us Latinos, that's how we are. We always, and I'm the second last one from 10 children that my mother had. I'm the second youngest. So it's like I feel an obligation to stay here to take care of my mother. You know, it's like I'd rather pay her the rent than to give it to someone else. Even though I have to hear her constant nagging and stuff like that, man, and sometimes the crazy arguments. But it's just, I wouldn't have it any other way.
Hey Steve, we've been here for an hour and 14 minutes already, and I think it's time to wrap it up, man. Is there any last things that you want to say?
No, just I would just like to say, man, I appreciate the time, man. I appreciate your time and effort, everything you do, man. That this a lot of people might see this a little bit sideways or whatever, but it's this is it's entertainment. of some sorts, man. We're just trying to. You're
Yeah,
trying
but
to.
let me tell you. Yeah, but let me tell you something, Steve. I don't mean to cut you off. Sorry about that. But this is like for a different type of audience because most of my listeners are old white men sitting in their freaking couches drinking beer. You know, so I'm pretty sure they're not interested in the cholo lifestyle, Chicanos. You know what I mean? This is for a different type of audience. So most of my audience right now, like I said, they're old white men who like to sit around in their freaking uh, couch drinking. You know what I mean? Like drinking a 40, maybe not a 40, but some
That's probably
whiskey
something
maybe or
that's
something.
something I'll be doing. Be drinking a
Yeah.
40. Go buy me a Mickey's.
But yeah. So this is for a different type of audience, So
No, yeah, it's
um,
that's why we called it a special edition. This is a special edition Chicano style.
so I mean, the video. I know what gets a lot of. I mean, I know what gets a lot of views because I know what to post right now, and it's gonna give me 1,000 views by tomorrow. But it's gonna have to be something to do with drama. You know what I mean? And I don't want to get in trouble. But so I mean, I
Yeah,
know it. So I mean, it's okay. It's a good segment. Hey, James Sexton, thank you, man. I appreciate that. But yeah, man. So Steve, thank you for joining us and sharing your story. Um, I'm pretty sure a lot of people are interested in these types of stories, man. Um,
yeah. It's just it's content creation. I believe you're in your own right to to diversify. You got that right to do so. This is what it is. You're a young man, dude. You're trying to you're doing what you're doing, and as Latinos, as Hispanics, whatever they want to call us, Chicanos, or whatever they want to call us as Mexican
Mexican
Americans or
American.
Americans.
I'm a Mexican American.
Mexican American, a Mexican American.
Hey, but hey, I got a comment once telling me that I look like that guy from Cheech and Chong. And
Yeah,
they're all like, what your guests had to say is very interesting. History is the best. Hey, Tom Tremaine, thank you. But anyways, man,
yeah.
thank you.
Read me some of the stuff that some of the people were saying because I never and I didn't get no chance or
Okay,
I
well, I
can't
mean,
see anybody from YouTube right
yeah,
now. I'm
there's
gonna have to look back into it.
since Waterboy canceled me over there at Slab City, I'm only got 9 viewers. You know what I mean? So but any so Tom Terrain says what your guest had to say is very interesting. History is the best teacher. That's true.
Absolutely. By the way, shout outs to Waterboy and everybody there. Um, Slab City
And
News kind of put it the way I don't want to get
wait a
too deep
minute.
into that stuff, man. But
Yeah, let's not get into it, man, because it's like opening up a whole different kind of worms.
yeah.
People hate me at the slabs right now. I'm not trying to make nobody hate me even more. Okay, so James Sexton says he's drinking a 12 pack. He must be drinking a 12
Hold
pack of. He must be drinking a 12 pack of Tecate Light.
Yeah, I used to be the kind of guy that would, man, I'd buy me a. Well, I used to like my Mickeys, so I'll buy me like about 340s and I'll drink them. But then again, I was like 245 pounds at one time, dude. Um, right now I'm about 180, but
Damn,
I used to
you
drink,
were
man.
dude. You were 240 something, and you're only 5'8", man. You're a little fat dude.
Yeah, I was
You're a
big, man.
little fat dude. You're a little fat dude.
Well, I had a gut, man, but I had some, I had some size to me, man. I had some. My
Yeah.
mom, look, listen, my mother, she's only about five. She's only 4'11", but she's around the 200-pound area, man, where she's like white as a barn. She's strong like hell. And I think we got that genes. My brother too. My brother Paito. Um, he was short and stout, but he was pretty big. And since he was like in prison, he had the prison muscles, that prison build. That fool was huge, man. For have you ever seen the bodybuilders, man? One of the best bodybuilders in the world have ever been. They've been somewhere around 5'6" or 5'8". You know,
Yeah.
without actually, like Ronnie Coleman was about 5'10". Ronnie Coleman, we already know who he was. Ronnie Coleman, if you know anything about
Yeah,
Mr. Olympias and stuff like that.
the black guy, right? The one that's all jacked up now.
Yeah, he was Mr. Olympia he was a Mr. Olympia 8 times. Mr.
Yeah.
Eight-time champion, Mr. Olympia. And so yeah, they just have the perfect body, the big legs, and God bless me with a big back and some legs, stuff like that. Because I was a guy that used to be able to squat close to 500 pounds, man,
Damn.
when I was only about 15 years old, and which is why my freaking back is all blown out now.
Hey man,
my discs are jacked up.
Hey man, so thanks for joining. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. The people who left a comment, thank you for leaving a comment. James Sexton, thank you for commenting. Steve,
yeah,
talk to you later, man.
Yeah, I'd like to thank everybody too that tuned in, man. Everybody that showed up and everything. I had invited a couple people. I don't know if they showed up or not. If they did, God bless you guys, man. And yeah, I wish we could do this again, man. One day, maybe get into the other stuff, And we didn't touch on a lot of different things. We just kind of touched kind of the general sort of the general conversation. But yeah, no, man, it was fun, man. It's cool, man. Yeah, and everybody, man, just support this guy, support Carlos, man, Slab City TV, man, and everything he's trying to do. God bless us. God bless us. God bless you, brother, man, and just keep doing what you're doing, man. God does things for a reason, and I don't believe in coincidences, And God has a good plan for you too, brother. So
all right,
it's all
man.
you, man.
Thanks a lot, Steve. Until next time.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.